Okay, we can continue the discussion. Can you hear me? Am I audible? Okay, so we have three more case studies left out, and that three case studies we will discuss today, and then we will continue in the next session. Okay, so the first one, you can see this is related to the politicization of bureaucracy, and this kind of question can also be expected. So I'm expecting that you are, understanding the pattern of the questions that they're asking. They will put you in a particular situation, okay, in a disaster situation that we have seen. That is one type of case study which can be asked. Sexual harassment case we have seen. Politicization of bureaucracy, that you can see, okay, how you are going to handle the politicians. It may not be how you are going to handle the situation. It may be asking you about the problems, because if you see here, seeing itself, you can answer this question. Here you are not put in a particular situation, but what are the consequences of politicization of bureaucracy? Okay, now the advantage of reading this is you may get some inputs and you may be able to answer even without reading this. If you don't have time, sometimes for the last case study you may not get time. So in that context also, you should be in a position to answer just by seeing this particular question. Okay, so political executive, this is a temporary executive, and bureaucracy, this is a permanent executive. So the role of bureaucracy is basically to implement the policies and programs of the political executive, right? So to make that consistency in implementation of programs, we need bureaucracy, and that's the reason, that's the rationale behind this bureaucracy, which is a temporary, not temporary, permanent institution. So let's look into the question which is given to you, the situation. In a modern democratic polity, there is a concept of political executive and permanent executive. So elected people's representative form the political executive, and bureaucracy forms a permanent executive. We know that. Ministers frame policy decisions and bureaucrats execute this. In the initial decades after independence, the relationship between the permanent executive and the political executive were characterized by mutual understanding, respect, and cooperation without encroaching upon each other's domain. Okay, so see, this is just given. You can read it and you will understand. Otherwise, also, there is nothing new in this. However, what is actually happening in the subsequent decades? The situation has changed. There are instances of political executive insisting upon the permanent executive to follow its agenda. What does this shows? This actually is talking about the politicization of bureaucracy, right? Now you need to work according to the political executive or the it's like and their policies. Okay, and for that you will be getting advantages and you will be getting disadvantage. If you listen to them, you will get proper postings, transfers, etc. If you won't listen to them, you will be transferred just like that. Okay, so complete discretion is with the political executive in terms of transfer and everything. So you will be put in a disadvantageous position. Okay, based on that only you're going to get this question. So respect for and appreciation of upright bureaucrats has declined. There is an increasing tendency among the political executive to get involved in routine administrative matters such as transfers, postings, etc. So you see, this is actually the tool in the hands of the political executive to control the bureaucracy, okay, bureaucrats. Under this scenario, there is a definitive trend towards politicization of bureaucracy. Okay, now see, even if you want to do something to the society, if you are going against the political masters or this political executive, they will not give you the posting, so you cannot do anything, right? You will become a chairman of some this KSCB or something like that, right? So simple postings they will give you, so you cannot do anything. Now you may start thinking over a period of time that I can obey the master, so you will get the good posting at least. So over a period of time that will happen. That's what you mean by this politicization of bureaucracy. The rising materialism and acquisitiveness in social life has also adversely impacted upon the ethical values of both the permanent executive and the political executive. So the current society, which is based on materialism and the kind of social life, the partying and everything, it is actually leading to, it is affecting the ethical values, right? So these are the story which is given. Actually, this has nothing to do with your answer here. If you know the concept of politicization of bureaucracy, basically that is what you need to write. The question is very simple and it is very clear that it is consequences of this politicization of bureaucracy. Now see here, this is almost like your paper 2 question, which can be asked in politics or polity, or it can be asked in governance. I don't understand why this has been asked actually in ethics. This is going to be a very straightforward question. And again, you can add your own points. Okay. So now tell me, what are the consequences? Firstly, you can say, do you think it is going to affect the society? It will definitely going to affect the society. It will affect the country also, because the poor people won't get any benefit. The schemes, the policies, etc., may not get implemented properly. Now, secondly, if you start thinking from the bureaucrat's point of view, right? So, do you think it will affect the honest officers? Okay, the officers with extreme integrity, it will definitely impact them, because see, they will not get good postings and they cannot do anything. So over a period of time, they also will start changing, right? So change is expected here. And this is how, these are the two tools which is actually in the hands of the political executive to control the permanent executive. So that lead to politicization. Now, impact, the consequences is something which you need to write here. You can visualize that because of this honest officers, they will be, it's like almost like it is kind of punishment which is given to the honest officers. You're doing your duty, without thinking about the political vendetta or anything. And when you're doing it and you're transferred, means it is actually a kind of punishment. So if you remember in the chapter of attitude, we have discussed about reward punishment theory, etc., and you can connect to that. Okay, so some people who are doing bad things, but still the political executive is supporting them, because they both are indulged in corruption, right? And this is a kind of collusive corruption. So the political executive also want that kind of bureaucrats. Okay, so that's what you can explain by using reward and punishment theory here. So even if you are doing bad things, but if you are getting rewarded, that will keep on continuing. You are doing good thing, but that is getting punished, means you stop doing that. For example, an honest officer is going or doing good thing, and if he is getting punished, the punishment in terms of the transfers and this postings, etc. So if he is getting punished, he will not be anyway motivated. And you can say the young generation will not be motivated in joining civil services, because you have to be under the politicians, right? And most of the politicians are not that educated also. So when you are under the politicians, it is actually affecting the morale of that officers. So you can say the intelligent officers, or the best officers who can come into this civil services, they are not willing to come because of this issue. Politicization is actually going to affect the mindset of all the people. Okay, so these are some impact which you can write, and it gives more opportunity to corrupt officers, and it will lead to corruption also. So what kind of corruption? The collusive corruption is possible. Okay, so what else you need to write here? Now, one of the most important impact of all these is what? Who will be most affected? The policies and the plans and everything is for the public, right? So the poor, the vulnerable sections, they will get affected, because see, when there is a politicization, actually these politicians, what they want to support their vote bank, right? So they will frame policies, okay, and whatever programs is there, they will try to make sure that their vote bank will get benefited, not all the poor and marginalized. So in that way also, the poor people will be affected, and overall development of the country will be affected. So what more than that, if you remember, when we have discussed about the values of civil service, foundational values of civil service, where we have discussed about impartiality, okay, and we have also discussed about uh, one more which was connected to what is that? Yeah, political neutrality, right? So these are few values. Now you need to bring in your answer few of the values also in this kind of situations. So the values which is required for civil servants, like impartiality, or especially this one, political neutrality, is actually going to be compromised when there is excessive politicization of bureaucracy. Okay, so these are the impact. Now this lead to what? This politicization of bureaucracy will lead to uneven development, misuse of funds, corruption, excessive discretion to the political executive, as well as the bureaucrats, right? Now, see, even the question which is asked is about the consequences. In one paragraph towards the end, since it is 20 minutes, you can towards the end discuss the solutions to the problem, or what can be done, what is the way forward. So, what is the way forward? Way forward here, I've told you the most important tools in the hands of the politicians is what? It is related to the transfers and postings, right? So something objective has to be done here. It should not be in the hands of the politicians. If that is the case, see, the temporary, you don't want to worry about the temporary people. They will come and go. They will come for 5 years, they will go. So why you are worried? In that 5 year, you will be posted in some, very less important areas. So that is the reason why people are so much committed to the political executive. So if the postings are not in their hands, do you think that you need to worry about any one of them? No. So you may be able to act rationally, logically, objectively, impartially, okay, and you can follow the political neutrality if this is the case. So this thing has to be controlled, and it has to be based on, it has to be based on some objective criteria, the postings. It should not be in the complete control of political executive. For that, whatever you want, you can write whatever is your, there should be a proper institution to look into the postings and transfers. So they will only look after this postings and transfers. That will be taken into consideration, the performance of the civil servants also. Okay, so all those are the solutions which can be uh, given under this particular situation. Then otherwise, we have this code of ethics for bureaucrats. And I've told you before also, ARC2 recommended some code of ethics which has to be implemented properly, which has to be enacted. And there should be a code of ethics or code of conduct for the ministers also. Okay, with respect to the involvement in this kind of implementation issue and administrative issues, etc. So that will do a very good answer. So the question is asked about consequences, and if you can write these consequences and more from your side, and when you can write some good uh, suggestions. See, whatever I have told you, these are conventional, okay, bookish suggestions only. And if you have something like out of the box thinking, then you can write that also, if it is convincing and if you can convince the examiner. Out of the box thinking is always good, but it has to be good. Okay, so that way you can do good in this particular answer. There's a very simple question, and that's the reason why you can see almost all the people got very good score in your GS for last year, 2019. Okay, you can also talk about anti-corruption bureaus, okay, and you can also talk about CVC should be strengthened, CAG, role of CAG. You can talk about Lokpal. All these are conventional things which can be written in all the answers. Almost all the answers which is connected to bureaucrats. Okay. So what is required? This is a way forward, and towards the end, you can say if this is followed, then what can be done? What can be done? What is expected? That is actually given in the question itself. Here it is given. So in the decade, what was the situation? We need to bring back to that situation. So if all these can be done, then we can bring back that situation, like the relationship between the permanent executive and the political executive were characterized by mutual understanding. It will become mutually stimulus. That means mutually supportive and mutually understanding for the society. So society will get benefited, the poor and the vulnerable will get benefited, because ultimately their goal is to the development of society, right? If that is the common goal for both of them, then there is a high chance that the society will get developed, rather than some parochial goal like serving the vote banks or making money or involving in corruption or selfish interest. If there is a common goal for the development of society and to take care of the poor and the vulnerable section by both the political and this other executive, right, then the problems can be solved. Permanent executive and political executive, if it is based on mutual understanding, then that can be solved, right? I'm not asking you anything more you want to add here, because obviously different people have different opinions and answers here. You can add a lot of things here. This is again very much open. So there is no question of asking you whether you can add here or not. And there's no question of you also telling me whether I can add this or not. It's up to you. If you feel that it is convincing, you can add that. Okay, so next one. This is a tricky one. You are put in a particular situation. So this is, yeah. In one of the district of a frontier state, narcotics issues there. And so the issues with respect to this. Okay, so this case resulted in money laundering, okay, mushrooming of poppy farming, arms smuggling. All these are problems. Okay, so you have to take care of many issues. Stalling of education. So education is again, affected. So you have to take care of education, and you have to take care of solving these problems also. You have to talk to the farmers and convince them, or you have to take actions. Arms smuggling, you need to do something. Money laundering, because all these are affecting not only that area, entire security of the nation, because these can be money laundering, this can be used for terrorist financing, and the arms smuggling also. Okay, terrorist activities. So this is going to be very important case study. The system is on the verge of collapse. The situation has been further worsened by unconfirmed reports that local politicians as well as some of the senior police officers are providing patronage to the drug mafia. So yeah, so political support is there. Also senior police officers are involved in this. At that point of time, a women police officer. Okay, now do you think that this is very important word, women police officer? Do you think that the women police officer will face more constraint than a counterpart? Obviously yes. So if it is women police officer, if it is mentioned, otherwise they could have told you at that point of time, you as a police officer, you can simply say. Okay, so here women police officer means there is a possibility that there may be more constraints and more restrictions. That is the reason why they have mentioned about that. Known for her skills, so that means already proved this, handling such situations, is appointed as the SP to bring the situation to normalcy. Now, you are the same police officer. Identify the various dimensions of the crisis. So, see, there's a keyword. First, you need to understand the various dimensions of the crisis. So, you need to, that I've underlined here already. This is one issue. This is another issue. This is another issue. And this is also an issue. Narcotics, this all are issue. At the same time, this politicians and police officers are also supporting. That's also a big issue. Okay. So first you have to highlight this dimensions, and then based on your understanding, what are the measures to deal with this crisis? So once you highlight these dimensions, you need to discuss various measures. How can you solve this? How can you solve education problem, arms smuggling? Okay, all those issues. So what you need here, you need a very comprehensive strategy here, because not only one involved, so much of things are involved. So you basically need a comprehensive solution. Now here the dimensions mean different dimensions. You have to connect this to different dimensions. When we talk about different dimensions, what are they? Mainly social. Okay, so now when I see social, you can say what is the social impact of this? Then economic, then environmental, right? Political. What else you can write here? Security related issues. Then ethical issues, obviously. So these are the different dimensions which you need to highlight. Once you highlight and once you explain, for example, what is the economic issue here? Economic issue here is, see, if you see here, the farmers are involved in what? The farmers are involved in poppy farming because that is beneficial for them. So do you think that these people are going to cultivate food grains? No. So that is actually going to affect the food security of the country, or the economic interest of the country will be affected. Okay, so there is an economic dimension over there. Now, what about this social? That definitely you can write, the quality of life will be definitely compromised, and various societal values like respect, justice, fairness, prudence, etc. will be in trouble. And also you can see education in that area is so much affected. So that is going to create big social impact and social problems. The child is not getting education means that is going to create big social impact. So that is a social dimension. I'm expecting that you're getting it. So once you see that, you should be in a position to explain what is the environmental impact that you can see here, and you can write that. Okay, so similarly, political, that we have discussed about this, right? Local politicians are involved in this. So there is a political patronage for the criminals, and that means what? This will lead to criminalization of politics. It's like criminals are involved in the politics, or criminal funding is coming to the politics. In all these ways, you need to write these words. Okay, this lead to criminalization of politics. That is also a bad situation. Obviously, it will affect the security of the country. You can talk about what here. You have enough content for that. Arms smuggling, right, and money laundering. So this black money, which is converted, can be used for terrorist financing, and that is going to affect the security of the country badly. And also arms smuggling directly can be used for the terrorist activities, anti-national activities. Okay, now entire question is related to the ethical issue of the senior police officers, the politicians, and the farmers. So everywhere, this nexus between the drug mafia, politician, government servants, police officers. Okay, so all these are actually now all these are actually affecting which values? Integrity of the civil servants or the police officer, impartiality. These are the values which will be compromised, right? And then objectivity, etc., honesty. All these values are actually compromised over here. So these are the different dimensions. Now, seeing the word dimensions, I hope this is very simple for you because you are studying this everywhere. At least this one, two, three, then fourth one. These four dimensions you will write everywhere in your paper one, paper two, paper three, and in your essay also. Here you need to add these dimensions since it is discussed over here, ethical as well as the security dimension. Anything more if you need to add now? I think I've covered all the things which can be added from this particular case study. If still you need to add anything more over this, obviously you can do that, because directly they're asking you, there's a direct question, what are the various dimensions of the crisis which is given in this question. So we have covered everything. Now the measures, what all things can be done. First, you need to make the farmers aware about the problem or the issue, uh, this particular issue, and make them aware that the consequences of what they're doing, right? So you have to create awareness for the farmers. First, you have to force them. Okay, and secondly, you can create social awareness. Okay, because this education is getting affected, so it should not get affected. So you have to convince the parents, you have to convince the teachers, and you have to involve various stakeholders. In this case, what are the various stakeholders? You can involve media, you can involve NGOs, local population, the teachers, the parents, the students, and create a social awareness campaign so that this problem can be solved. So the education, it has to be resumed properly. Okay, and those who are affected because of this narcotics issue, you have to create some rehabilitation centers for them. So so proper counseling, etc., to be given to the people. Okay, and here, what else you can write? Farmers, you can either use the force or you can go for persuasion. Persuasion is very important here. Okay, and bring the attitudinal change also among the drug users. So rehabilitation centers, you need to bring attitudinal change. Now this attitudinal change theories we have discussed, it can be reward and punishment theory. Through punishment also you can bring this attitudinal change. Okay, proper administrative mechanism, so proper civil administration has to be there. So these issues, they can identify these issues, they can stop this issue, they can control these issues. That also you can write. Now ultimate objective is what? Objective is to counter this drug issue, this issue, and this issue, money laundering issue, right? And this poppy farming. So you understand the objective, and based on that you can take actions for this, what you need to do, then this, what we need to do, this we have already discussed, and this also we have discussed. Then the other things, these three are in fact connected. These are related to the, you can basically talk from the legal side also. So legal measures, what all things you can do. Okay, now from the supply side, what else you can do? Increased vigil, which proper vigilance has to be there. Okay, zero tolerance, there should not be any tolerance towards this drug sale and this kind of activities. So surprise raids to be conducted, and in no way you should allow them to continue this activity. So this is something which you need to do. So within police force itself, we have seen that some issues are going on. So if senior police officer affected, automatically will convey, or you can expect that at the lower level the impact will be much higher, right? If they can control, or if the senior police officers are part of this, means obviously at the lower level the constabulary will definitely much more affected or will be under the control of them. So what you need to talk to them, and again awareness has to be created. Okay, and border, yes, border guarding, that has to be done. And then ethical sensitization of the police force. So sensitization of the police force, and create awareness among them about the adverse impact on the drug use. Okay, so, and proper evidences has to be collected against them. That means I've told you this legal action has to be taken. Legal action means if those who are involved in this, whether the local politicians or the senior police officers, without any fear, you should be in a position to, you are an officer in charge to take care of this issue. So you should be in a position to identify that proper evidences, and you should file a case and continue with that case. So you need to tell that zero tolerance towards this particular issue. And the other cases here, what all things can be done, that has to be done. This is something which is having huge social impact, that has to be taken care with the help of the stakeholders. Others mostly legal action, and then you can say ethical sensitization, creating awareness, rehabilitation centers, all these you can say. Strict implementation of NDPS Act. Okay, all these you can say. And do you think you alone can do this? You need informers. For any such system, informers are required. So you have to have good informers, reliable sources of informers, and they should also be rewarded for the relevant information that they are giving. So if that is there, you can go for surprise rates and you can eliminate this issue. See that these things are from the legal side, what the police officer what I told you, the thing, then think in that situation, and if you can write, that will be really good. But the first part, since it is asked, I don't think that this part will be any problem for any one of you. All the dimensions we discussed, the social, economic, political, and environmental, along with ethical and also the security issues we have covered. So this was, and whatever you have written here, to counter these issues, what can be done? Okay, so since it is an ethics paper, we mostly stress on this ethical sensitization, awareness campaign, okay, rehabilitation centers. That's what we mostly stress on, rather than legal sides. Legal sides, you don't want to write the legal aspects. You don't want to write what is a provision in NDPS Act, etc. You can say strict implementation of various provisions in the NDPS Act, etc. That's simply that you can write. But if it is in polity or something, you need the specific answer. All right, guys, that's about this particular question. Any doubt in that? You want to say something in that?
Sir, if we just simply eliminate them, then what will happen?
No, simply elimination will not be a solution for anything. Simply eliminating, that's not a solution. That's not democratic. That is unjust rule. Even terrorists also have their own rights.
Yes, sir, but in means in such areas like a Naxalite area, these activities are more in that area.
That doesn't mean, see, simply elimination, that is not a solution for anything. We are looking for a proper solution. So if we are writing simply elimination, that shows that kind of no maturity from your side. Even if you think from Mahatma Gandhi's perspective and point of view, is he really talking about eliminating anything? No, right? It's all about peace and non-violence and these methods. So even we are also following rule of law and procedure established by law. So
Yes,
these are
but
the key pillars of the constitution. So we have to stress on constitution, and the law has to be democratic, and it has to be equally applicable to everyone. Whether the person is terrorist or he is doing illegal activity, it doesn't matter. If there is a law of the land, it has to be followed equally. Rule of law has to prevail. The procedure established by law has to be implemented properly. And if the law, even Mahatma Gandhi also say, if that law is undemocratic, if we are doing undemocratic activity to them, they have all the right to violate the law. Right? So if they have violated the law, that doesn't mean that you need to violate the law. Next one, if you see, this is the last case study. So most of the time, what will happen is you may left out with maybe 5 minutes. Okay. So first, what you need to do is just go in talking about some real scenario. We will obviously come back to the actual case study and we will discuss this in detail. But in actual exam, you may left out with, if you are not managing your time properly, what will happen is you will left out with 5, 6, 7 minutes maximum. But this is of 20 mark. Okay, so what you can do is, you may not get time to read this. Just quickly read this. Suggest institutional measures to address about 3 issues. See what are the 3 issues. Anticipating specific threats to ethical standards and integrity of the civil services. Okay, so this is related to threat to ethical standards and integrity of civil services. So this is something which is general, you can write. Strengthening the ethical competence of civil servants. This is again something which is general. We have discussed about ARC2 and code of conduct, code of ethics and everything. Developing administrative processes and practices which promote ethical values and integrity in civil services. So these are the 3 issues. And what are the institutional measures? Here, institutional measures. Just don't want any of your thoughts out of the box thinking here. Okay, so very specific here, institutional measures. But still, you can write that, no objection in that. Let's read the case study. This question situation. In recent times, there has been an concern in India to develop effective civil service ethics, code of conduct, transparency measures, ethics and integrity systems, and anti-corruption agencies. All right. In view of this, there is a need being felt to focus on these specific areas which are direct relevant to the problems of internalizing integrity and ethics in the civil services. These are as the follows. Actually, we get nothing from here. Right? Just one paragraph is there. These are the things, the problems. You need just institutional measures. What you need to do is divide into 7 marks, 7 marks, 7 mark. Okay, and take this 7 mark, 7 mark, 7 mark. Like that, you need to solve, and that's how they will divide marks also. So take the first one and answer. Take the second one and answer. Third one and answer, rather than writing a one single answer for this particular case. Okay. What are the most important foundational values for civil services? You can even talk about Nolan Committee recommendation, maybe in the introduction that you can write, like integrity, impartiality, compassion, devotion to duty. All those values we have discussed, maybe in the introduction you can write. Now, specific threats to ethical standards and integrity in the civil services. What are the suggestions? Suggest institutional measures. See, mostly the things that we have discussed is what you can write. We have discussed about whistleblowers, right? So protection of whistleblowers, social audit. Just 1 minute, guys. Let me take that. You basically ensure the citizens' participation, because specific to ethical standards. So what you need is citizens' participation. So in the context of citizen participation, you can write a social audit, right? And then you can also talk about RTI has to be strengthened, right? Then you can also talk about citizens charter, which is something we have discussed. Periodic monitoring, that anyway will come under social audit. Or you can write separately also monitoring and performance review. These are some things which can be done. Protection of whistleblowers. Anything else you want to add here? Maintenance of proper records. Performance we have discussed, right? What about this? Ethical competence of civil servants. Again, almost all the things that we have discussed, proper monitoring. Okay, performance review. Guys, these are in, we write in general, something which we will be fixing in our mind. It is there in Chronicle also. We will get it fixed. And this kind of question is asked. These are the points that we need to write. Okay, so effective implementation of code of conduct or code of ethics. Code of ethics 97 has to be followed properly. Okay, strict implementation of or enforcement of RTI. You can see these are repeating, but there is, both are almost the same. Also talk about citizens charter. but citizens charter is not important from civil servant point of view. Right to information, code of ethics, proper monitoring, performance review. Anything else? To
Trading,
ensure
sir.
transparency, ensure transparency, RTI is there. Accountability for that monitoring is there. Training. Okay, that's enough. What about the next one? This one. Developing administrative processes and practices which promote ethical values and integrity in civil services. Again, you will say almost the same thing: ensure transparency, strict implementation of code of ethics or code of conduct, right? And he must be trained or taught to avoid the prejudiced decisions. There should not be any prejudice. That means total objectivity has to be followed, right? Integrity means you can also talk about related to bribe or gift, etc. Should not be should have a strict rule with respect to this. It should not be taken at any cost. Okay, so and the officers should not use the office for any personal use, for any personal benefit. Then training also you can write here. Proper training with respect to ethics, right? More field study or field visits during training to make them understand the actual reality. That's it. So now this is something which is up to you, from your knowledge, from your imagination also, from your understanding also. You need to write an answer for that particular question. Any doubts from this paper? We now next we will cover 2017 and 2018 together, and we will have more interesting studies over there. This 2019, actually, this is a very simple paper. It is nothing. Maybe some theoretical questions you can see. And see, if you see, or is there anything which we have not discussed in this paper? Only emotional intelligence was not discussed, but we have covered that when I discussed about this question. Otherwise, everything is very simple and very common. So you don't want to be worried about this particular paper. There's going to be something which is very scoring, and treat it like your optional. Treat this and essay as your optional. So that 500 mark, you need to get 300 mark for sure. At least 280. Okay, any doubts?